Hello, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to our Welcome to We show, the special episode here. How do we shape peace? This is a really amazing topic that we're going to be talking about. So welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining with us. We would love to hear from you. And if you could type into the chat where you're watching from so we can give a big shout out to our global family. I'm Karen Palmer. I am one of your hosts here for this amazing show. I am so thrilled for all of our guests that we have this week. I can't wait to share everybody with you. And, you know, this is where we go into those three I's that make a we. So we inform, we inspire, and we involve you. And that's what's so exciting about how we go from a me society to a we society. And I get to share these beautiful guests, but I also get to share the screen with my amazing co-host, the incredible Rick Ulfik, who is the founder of We the World. You can learn about We the World at we.net. And also, Rick is the co-creator of the 11 Days of Global Unity, 11 ways to change the world, with participants that include Desmond Tutu, Jane Goodall, Deepak Chopra, Ensler, Bill McKibben, and many, many more. I am so excited to be able to do this show with you, Rick. Thanks so much for putting all these people together. Yay.
Yay, and what an amazing, extraordinary show we're going to have today. I'm so excited. And before we go any further, let me tell folks about you. Karen Palmer is a global kindness leader and a live stream social media expert who co-produces several popular online talk shows, including this one. She is a best-selling author and is coordinator of We the World's campaign for women. You can connect with her by going to globalkindnesstv.org. And as Karen mentioned, in case anybody watching this wants to find out more about We the World and the We campaign, and possibly collaborate with us or even join our We team, you can go to we.net, where you can sign up yourself or your organization or both. So we are living at a time of great challenges to our societies and to our entire civilization. As the world has seen, the pandemic has proved to be the most deadly to those who have already suffered from decades and longer of catastrophic racial and economic inequality. Frustration and rage has been intensified by the deadly use of force by police and others against unarmed African Americans, George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and others are unfortunately being added to the recent list, like Rayshard Brooks in Atlanta, inflaming communities across the US and around the world. The protests seem to be having some influence on politicians, and possibly more than in the past. There is talk about shifting some police funding away from police and towards community services and other kinds of reforms. Are we at a turning point? So to answer that question and answer the question, how can we best move forward to create a society and world that actually works for all? We have an extraordinary group of people who each have their own and interconnecting answers to that question. And I'd like to start with Antoinette. Antoinette, Ruth's daughter, Hall.
Greetings, everyone. Yes, Antoinette, Ruth's daughter.
Hall. And
an uptown girl who knows her roots and her culture.
Yes.
That's where Ruth's daughter came from.
Exactly.
When I saw in your email, because I thought we were going to be talking about something else, but I was really pleasantly surprised to see that we were actually going to be doing like a shift type of thing. And one of the questions that you had asked in the email was how I felt about the protests. And I had to think about it. I really had to think about it since last night until today too. And it just dawned on me that the first time I knew about protests was my family comes from Birmingham, Alabama, and they call that city Bombingham. And the reason they call that city Bombingham was because it used to be bombed consistently, Black churches, and other buildings, other places. The place it looked like a war zone, during the first riots and protests during the civil rights era. My father too, and that was one of the reasons why he went into the military. And I grew up in the military and didn't realize until when I came to the States. And in the 80s, my first riot and protest that I was actually in was in Virginia Beach. And here I was watching the state police, the National Guard, the local police, the city police. It looked like Vietnam with the choppers flying all over. And every single Black woman, man, and child was being beaten to a pulp, arrested, and locked up. And that was what I was witnessing as soon as I got out of high school. I said, I have to get out of here because I will not be able to survive in this type of environment. And I left, started playing reggae music, got very conscious through reggae music because I realized I had no idea about my own history. And it was through reggae music that I found, versions like King James Version, by Steel Pulse, and, Handsworth Riot that Pato was doing, and different songs that they were singing back in those days. And that led me to start reading books about Malcolm X, about the destruction of African civilization, about J. Rogers, about all these things that we never actually learned in school. I didn't even realize that I didn't even know anything about myself. But then again, I went to New York. Here comes the riots again. And you remember the riots back in the 90s that they had. and it was so impactful that I realized I had to get out of New York City as well too. I said, this is not a place that I can raise my daughter in where we're racially being profiled, several times a day, several times a week, several times per year. As a child growing up, that my daughter has to sit there and witness that we're being racially profiled without having committed a crime, that there would always be 5 cars called up to sit there, and she would have to witness this as a child. And many people didn't understand that either. So up again, I moved out of New York City after 9/11, after martial law, more profiling again against brown people. I come to California. There's riots again, there's more police killings. Everything is going on all over the place. And then we finally move out of Los Angeles to get away from that. And we move to a small city called Lake Elsinore in Southern California. Since the riots have erupted around California, across the country, across the world, everywhere, there was so much tension, even in our city. For the last few weeks, this has been going on. I've had to beg with the people who live around me that we cannot, I said, you gotta let these kids speak. And they were worried about there was gonna be rioting and looting happening like all the cities. Within 30 miles of me, almost every city had some type of clash with the police or with the business owners or with counter protesters or different things that were happening. And I said, we can't let this happen where we actually live. So this was the first time did we actually get involved. And I did it for my neighbors. I did it for my city to sit there and say, listen, I'm not gonna let anything happen to your business. I will go out there myself and personally, find out what's going on, get involved, and make sure that the people who are trying to speak will be able to speak, and that no outside agitation will also be able to come in, and also no inside agitation from the people who are actually there. So the first protest, we never found out who the organizers were. We just took it over. It was just, we were watching, and then we were only there was a few Black people there. And then I was like, if they're gonna protest and march in our name, then we have to be able to know what they're gonna be saying about us and how we wanna be spoken about. So me and another woman named Dr. Quinlan Strong, she took the lead and she asked me to help her. So we ended up leading the march down the street. And of course, there was some outside agitators, and there was the police there and the guards and everybody else there watching what we were doing. And we said, no, you're not gonna have any issues or any problems with us. And constantly I had to say on the megaphone, we love this city. We mean no harm. We are causing no harm. We just wanna speak about the things that we wanna speak about. Immediately after, we found out there was another protest going on. And again, we didn't know who was organizing this protest until the lieutenant of the local sheriff's department called me and said, it's these young kids. They really felt like they really wanted to do something, and they just need some guidance. They need some leadership. Maybe you could perhaps help them. So through him, we got together with him the mayor, the city officials, the Chamber of Commerce, the police, and they actually asked if they could march with us. I said, that's totally fine. Of course, there was opposition because they felt like, how are you going to sit down with the gang in blue? How are you going to sit down with the police? I said, right now, the police are here to protect us because there's people who are threatening to bring armed weapons and try to antagonize us. As you saw in New Mexico, they had just shot somebody. You know, armed protesters came and shot one of the protesters. There's people who want to run us over. They're publicly talking about hurting us. And I said, we have these kids coming. People know that we're coming out. They're bringing out little children. They're bringing out entire families. But these voices of the kids need to be protected. I said, we'll do whatever we can and we'll be out there and we'll go with them. So that's what happened with the last two protests. The last one we just had last Wednesday. And then we started and we formed an organization called Stand Up for Justice Lake Elsinore, because even though we believe in Black Lives Matter, we wanted to make sure that everybody was included as well too, for any type of oppression or injustice happening to anybody in our city or in our area, that we would stand up with them, beside them, for them, whatever we had to do. But we wanted to make sure that we're not going to create any more division, but to try to bring some type of unity. But we're still dealing with that division, but there's people who want to hear and there's people who don't want to hear. But right now, with those who want to hear are actually going to come together. And we now have started to develop a relationship with the police and with the city and with our local citizens as well too. So that's a step in the right direction, I feel. It's like, if we can't do anything at all, then at least let's be able to come to the table. They're willing to listen to me. I told them, if I call or text you, I need a response within 24 hours. You know, same thing like when I deal with you, I need a response within 24 hours. I need to know what's going on, and you got my message and you're listening to me and you hear me and stuff. So I think something really beautiful can happen out of a very, very tragic, you know, incidents and incidences that have continued to happen in the past will still probably continue to happen because we're still having these things happening every single day. But at least if we get the ball rolling, we'll get more people involved and united together. Thank you.
That's great. That's great. Thank you, Antoinette. And I know that you are, I mean, I wanted people to know other things about you as well, which is that you are a skillful marketing and public relations expert, and you're actually doing marketing and PR for Unity Earth. And you're also a renowned keyboardist and musical minister in Pato Banton's spiritual family, and a social spiritual activist who travels the globe promoting world peace and unity. And I just wanted to see, how are you making that connection? Because one of the big things that we're going to be talking about today is World Unity Week. And I know you're involved with that. So how are you making that connection between the experiences you were just talking about with the protests and how you feel about that, and then with the kind of the big picture of how we can move out of this time of protest and move towards world unity, really? Do you think we're at a tipping point where real change is possible to address these racial and economic issues that we're talking about?
I do. I think we're actually not at the tipping point. I think we're really at the scratching point, you know, like a scratch and sniff, or when you're doing the lotto or something, we're just starting to scratch off one little piece. So that's going to open up to a lot of things as well. I've sent over some women that I met during Africa Week 2020, which was just held like 2 weeks ago. And I just found out about this. I was like, wow, this is really incredible. They've had thousands and millions of viewers within the African diaspora. I said, this is what's actually needed as far as we're in with Unity Earth, United Religions Initiative, the evolutionary leaders. We're still just a small integral part of these organizations. And then I was like, we need to bring our sisters and brothers also from that region as well to sit there and participate, because they also have a voice that needs to be heard amongst each others, so they can be included in the conversations. So I think that's going to be a great start for World Unity Week. And World Unity Week, as we're always supporting as far as the Native, Indigenous, as far as the environment, as far as the words for, you know, defunding nuclear weapons, all the different, the animal lives rights are also, they have, their lives matter as well too. but all the different things that are just kind of uniting the world, we just kind of tie this in together because this is something that's kind of happening on the forefront. Especially when I saw the protests going over in Europe, I was like, wow, and look at the Japanese, look at what they're doing. I said, oh my gosh, they are genuinely interested and genuinely want to be connected. So our job as, you know, as leaders in all these worldwide organizations have a chance to sit there and like, let's show them how we're doing it together, holding hands together and standing side by side together. So that's going to be a really interesting how all of that ties in for World Unity Week, which is going to be 7 days of like amazing broadcasts, you know, from people from all over the place and all different cultures, religions, races, sexes, you name it. I don't know what we're not covering. So, but we're going to make sure that we cover it all and make sure that, you know, everybody's voice is heard. You know, but I'm not as good a social media agent as Ben is, you know. He's a secret, you know, social media expert and everything. So
Great, great. Well, thank you, Antoinette. You want to bring in our next guest, Karen?
I would be so honored. Speaking of Ben Bowler, what a great guy. What an amazing, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much, Antoinette, for sharing and educating us so much about what we can be, how we can be involved. And thank you for all the work that you're doing with the youth on helping them to be able to amplify their voice. It's so important that we have leaders like you helping younger people understand how to protest peacefully. So beautiful. Thank you.
Yes, and since this is International Children's Month, that's very appropriate that, and it was really, I really like that too, how you stepped up, Antoinette, with those young people to kind of protect them in a sense and connect with them through this.
Thank you. But real quick, before we go to Ben, real quick though, it's not just me telling the kids how to protest peacefully. It really, because they're hearing a lot of that, and they did another unity thing that came afterwards where they're just telling them and preaching to them. It's not so much telling them what they should be doing, it's really listening to them and hearing them and allowing them to be able to speak on their own terms and their own conditions, because I think they feel like they've been talked to enough, you know.
And we can learn from them. We learned so much from them. I learned from all of the kids that I work with. I learned from second graders, kindergartners. I'm always learning, and you know, we have to have an open heart and an open mind to learn. So thank you for that. I really believe that listening is the answer for everything that we have. Our problems in our world right now is listening. So Ben is the executive director for Unity Earth. I have placed in the chat the links to unity.earth and also worldunityweek.org. He is the global network building of the worldwide movement of unity and peace. Previously in 2001, he launched World Weavers, offering spiritual immersion programs. And in 2015, Ben launched onegod.com, how awesome, an online platform aimed at countering religious fundamentalism, relativism, and Western materialism. Back to the broadcast. Ben, welcome. How do you see these protests fitting into the big picture of our global transformation? And thank you, Ben, for being here. I know how busy you are. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us here today. We're honored to have all of you here.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Rick. It's great to be here on the We Show with such an amazing group, and wonderful to hear Sister Antoinette's, you know, amazing story. I've got to see a lot of Antoinette's activism over the years, but there's so much more about Antoinette's story. So it's great to hear more and more about it. Yeah, we live at a time that I don't think we have words for. If you put all of this together, the crises that we're facing around the planet, we really do live in the crux of the convergence of multiple crises coming together. And this eruption into the streets around the issue of racial justice and racial equality and systemic racism, not just in America, but right around the world, is very much a part of the transformation that we're living through. The process of Unity Earth has been on over the last few years, where Antoinette has been very, very heavily involved in journeys from the outback here in Australia to Ethiopia and India and the Holy Land, and many others as we get ready for what was going to be this physical caravan across the United States in September, leading to the International Day of Peace, which is part of what we're here today to talk about. But all of that was building up. How do we connect these different spaces? How do we connect those who are passionate about climate change together with those who are passionate about interfaith unity, together with those who are passionate about social justice? And for a long time, that conversation was happening in ways that were quiet and underground. But now we see the eruption of these movements. Kids are taken to the street for the Fridays for future climate striking over the last year or so. Now we see the Black Lives Matter movement, erupting around the world, and this pent up pressure from the injustices that have been going on for 400 years in North America. It goes back to systemic racial injustice here in Australia. Many people may not know, but Aboriginal people were classified as fauna until the 1950s. I mean, it's absolutely horrific to imagine. But the systemic racism, science was used to categorize Aboriginal people in a different class, not even human. So this is just 50, 60, 70 years ago. It's recent. So to see now, people taking to the streets, standing for equality, standing for universal value of each individual. We're just in the process of putting out something from Unity Earth and the other partners, many of the partners that have come together for World Unity Week, but really drawing upon the wisdom traditions and drawing upon our collective inspiration to affirm the universal dignity and the value and worth of every individual. And so we see this, mobilization on the streets as a part of this great upheaval where the old systems are falling away and the opportunity to do things in a right way, in right relationship to each other, to the earth, and to creation. And really to establish the right order of things. So for those, who have suffered systemic injustice and racism for generations, you're right, Karen, the best we can do is to listen deeply and learn. And we all have so much transformation to do at a personal level in order for us to really become the transformation we want to see at a community level and at a global level. So it's very real. It's very raw. There's a lot of suffering. There's a lot of pain, and there's a lot of anger that we see. And so, being with that and the work that Antoinette does, and her husband Pato and many others during World Unity Week, we're going to be having Ungun founder Dr. Marty K. Casey come and do a program from St. Louis. But this work of finding an enlightened way through, the pioneering work Antoinette, Pato, and others are doing, of finding a way to heal, finding a way to come through that's truth and based on justice, and also to affirm. There are many of us here that talk about world peace. We're getting ready for the International Day of Peace. John, and you'll hear a bit later, is working with David Gershon and the Peace on Earth by 2030. There's a lot of us that want to see peace, but just to affirm that without justice, there can be no peace. So this process that we see around the world right now is part of the process. It's necessary, it's vital, it's urgent, and we're standing shoulder to shoulder with everyone around the planet who is standing and speaking for justice and equality and universal human dignity and the healing of the human family to come together once and for all in equality as one colorful and diverse human family. So all of that is a part of this unfolding process, which is taking us through this transformational moment. And I think the next 3 months are absolutely.
You have the World Unity Week coming up. Can you tell us a little bit about the amazing plans that you have for that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's come together in a very deeply emergent way. We were coming out of the Holy Land in February. Monica was there and John was there and Antoinette was there. You'll hear a bit, but we were coming out of that with great momentum to come towards September and Peace Weekend. And then the whole world got shut down. So we had to readjust our plans, and we started looking at what we could do. And World Unity Week coalesced around the mid-year solstice. And then working very closely with John, we created this framework of World Unity Week, which is an 8-day program going from Saturday the 20th through to Saturday the 27th. And yeah, it's bringing together social justice, environmental, spiritual unity, music, celebration, conversations. It's a huge conversation platform, and there are now over 100 organizations and initiatives, including We the World, that have come together to really institute this World Unity Week. And it's the underlying premise is that until we come together, we can't solve these problems. Until we come together and unite, we can't deal with systemic racism in any country. Until we come together and unite, we certainly can't deal with the environmental degradation and the climate crisis that we're in. Until we come together and unite, we are not able to be the solutions that we need to see in the world. So the pioneering work of the 11 Days of Global Unity, which has been going for 15 years, and many others that we stand with shoulder to shoulder with the United Religions Initiative, which we're celebrating their 20th birthday in World Unity Week. We're getting ready to commemorate the 75th anniversary of the signing of the United Nations Charter in 1945, which was itself a response to a terrible conflagration of World War II and a terrible loss of life in that period of time. That people came together to try and end it. And that charter begins, we the peoples of the United Nations. So trying to get back to the spirit of that, we the peoples of Earth coming together to be the solution, not waiting for any government to do it, not waiting certainly for big business to do it, but to be that. And so civil society, what Audrey Kitagawa, the chair of the Parliament of World Religions, calls the great sleeping giant of civil society around the world, is coming together to stand together. And that is World Unity Week. You'll hear more about it from John and all the different convergence rooms that are happening. It's become quite a massive undertaking, but it's wonderful.
So exciting. It is so exciting. And, it's really powerful what you're talking about here. And we want everyone to know, I have typed in the link for the week, so you can check out worldunityweek.org and you can find out more information. We also encourage you to like that page on Facebook, because that will be the place where you will be able to see everything airing, and you'll be able to see everything live. We would love for you to get involved as much as you possibly can. And we have Rick, another amazing guest coming in. Can you bring him in for us?
Certainly. John Raymer is working with Unity Earth on World Unity Week and is founder of Compassion Games International. He is co-creator of the Synergized Impact Network Exchange, SINE, SIGN, a collaborative community fueling collective empowerment and growth of its members. Welcome to the broadcast, John Raymer.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you,
And
Karen.
I have a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
Can you start where everybody else has been starting, which is with these protests, and then how do they connect with the work you and we all are doing with the SIGN Network for World Unity Week? And then maybe move that whole thing forward to the September plans, which include 11 Days of Global Unity, and your, what I call, and what some people call, your big, hairy, audacious goal of peace on Earth by 2030. Take it away, John Raymer.
Yeah. God, it's so good to be here. Listening to Antoinette and Ben, oh my gosh, guys. And it's clear we've never been here before. So I'm a musician, the soundtrack, I've been hearing Sam Cooke, change is gonna come. And it's been a long time coming. And a lot of people know that. So it's been like personally an incredible journey. Listening to Antoinette, I mean, that's the me I want to be. That really saying, hey, this is my community. I'm getting out on the street. We can't ignore this. And at the same time, like Ben saying, this is us at a collective level like we've never seen before. And the other day, Terry Patton used the metaphor of the hero's journey. So they go through this moment of separation, like the COVID just all of a sudden locked us away. And now we're in this ordeal. This is the ordeal. I mean, I was stunned when I saw how many people were coming out in the street. Everyone was told they have to stay isolated, but the compelling call to come was so great that people came out on the streets. This is one for the ages. I mean, we're living through something that is challenging us and I know for myself, you know, and when I saw, my daughter lives in Ramallah, when I saw the Rabin Square, thousands of people with signs of Palestinian lives matter, I said, this is really the right time. So our contribution here, and which is so much, this is our family here. I know everybody here and have for years, is like we're doing the right thing at the right time. And we're challenging ourselves in ways we've never been before because it's a new medium. What we were able to do on Zoom together, I mean, all of a sudden distance is not the issue. We can connect. Now the thing is, what are we going to do? And how are we going to treat each other and model these new ways? I've heard so many brilliant ideas surfacing. One of them is this idea of scaffolding. Nature does that. I mean, if you go build something, you need a scaffold. So like, how do we scaffold each other? Like here in support of We the World and your campaign, and in love and support of what Pato and Antoinette are doing, and what URI is doing, and what Unity Earth is doing, and learning that kind of way of thinking and behaving with each other. That's for me the growing edge, and we're doing it. And you know, we're not going to get everything right, but I'm so excited about World Unity Week. We've got these like 15 different rooms where people can meet and talk with each other. It's not a stadium. Don't think of 100,000 people listening to someone on a stage. That's the old model. But we can actually find each other. So Anne-Marie from the Hague Center and Marilyn Hamilton with Integral Cities, they want to talk about eco-cities and eco-regions. And they'll be able to meet in a convergence room about that. And people that care about the divine feminine rising want to get together and talk about that. And people who care about the idea of the Caravan of Unity and Peace Weekend 2020 can get together and engage about that. So and what happened to us is that we were envisioning one big room, but then so many people applied. So many people want their voice to be heard, that we're just kind of expanding the boundaries to create more and more space. The good news is, to build another convergence room, you don't need like a hammer and nails. In the digital world, you can just kind of make it space for it. So that's experience what is happening for us right now, and what's going to happen starting with the indigenous-led ceremony. And when you do a global thing, it's like you've really got some new questions, like when does the day begin and who gets to say? So we decided that Friday night is actually the beginning of Saturday, because we're going to start in Australia at 8 p.m. New York time. You know, these are issues that in a global event are new for us. But we're doing it. We're challenging ourselves to think that way so we can organize and coordinate like we never have before. And I am so proud of us, and also, you know, feel like there's some wind at our back. There's some divine orchestration here. I don't really worry. I definitely feel like, oh my God, like Ben said before, he's got 400 things he's got to get done in the next hour. There is definitely like that feeling, but it's worth it. And I love you, and we're here, and we're in. I love We the World. Karen and Rick, you too, are such a great pair. Thank you for the time here. Sharon, so good to be with you. Compassion Games.
John, yay, hi.
Yeah.
I don't want to interrupt. Are you still going?
Yeah, well, I don't know who's next. I'm going to turn back. I'm done,
I think
though.
it's me.
Well, yeah, Karen, why don't you bring in our next guest?
I'd be so honored to bring in my dear, sweet, beautiful friend, Sharon. Oh my gosh, what a blessing to our world, Sharon Ria. She's the founder of No Judgment, Just Love, whose mission is to inspire us all to live together with unconditional allowance. Imagine that. One courageous action at a time. She's a dynamic facilitator as well as a compassionate life and family coach. You can find her at thewholefamilycoaching.com and visit the www.njj.world. No judgment, just love world. Welcome, welcome, dear sweet Sharon. Thank you for being here.
I love we. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Rick. You are my
Thank you.
heart. I'm just so grateful to be in this
One
community.
heart.
Yes,
one heart. We are one heart here together, creating a world that works for all of us. And what has the protest meant for you? And what are you doing with No Judgment, Just Love to help us create that kind of a society? I know you have done so much for so many years, and this is really a breaking point for this time for many of us. So I'd love to hear your wisdom.
Well, thank you, Karen. Thank you. And I want to say hello to Antoinette, just meeting you. Honored. Thank you. Monica, I can't wait to hear about you. And nice to see you again, John. Ben, just meeting you from down under, I think. Thank you. And Sue, always a pleasure. I lived in Maryland, about a mile from Washington, D.C. in 1964, 5, 6, 7, 8, when all of the riots and the killings and the assassinations were happening. I was a young girl. I was not allowed to go into D.C. where my grandparents were. I had no real awareness except everyone was scared and everyone was sad. Whew. And I didn't realize until I got older that I was part of desegregation in my schools. And all I could understand was how come they on the other side of the highway, which was Pennsylvania Avenue, got a bus and I had to walk. My walk was far. So as a child, it didn't really resonate top of mind what was going on. I just knew my country was in pain. And in my community, there were equal amounts of Black and white people, and our common denominator was economics. So we really didn't experience any racial issues. It was just you live and middle class and I live middle class, and there we are. And we all got together. It was more who are the druggies and who is the band and who are the smart people and the actors. So this particular time, and there's been a buildup because I've lived in St. Louis, I've lived in New York, Brooklyn, I worked in Manhattan, I was a lobbyist in Albany. And so I was very aware in the late 1990s what was going on, not only in New York, but in my town of Washington, D.C., because I became interested in politics. I enjoy politics, but not the way it's being delivered in our time right now. And so I did not watch the video. I couldn't put him in my spirit that way. But it caused me to say, we really don't know how pent up, how willing people are to harm each other and stand by and watch some atrocity happening. And so from that place, it called up a lot of stuff in my spirit. I'm Black, no mistaking that, but I don't have the same experience as many people have had that are Black. There is a spectrum for all of us of what we've lived. And yet I feel judged because I haven't lived that experience and I don't fit fully in a definition of Black. But my Black life matters as much as every other Black life matters, as much as all of our lives matter. But when one part of your house is on fire, you have to pay attention to that part first. And so I also feel a little bit judged, Rick, as I'm answering about what this called up for me. I feel like we are a garden, and there are people that know how to plant the food. There are people that know how to harvest the food. There are people that know how to cook the food. And there are lots of people willing to eat the food. And all of us have our unique specialties. But I hear so many of my friends feeling judged that, with all wonderful gratitude to Antoinette and everyone who's speaking out and marching and helping young people raise their voices and everyone raise their voices, I feel like I am part of the planting, creating a no judgment, just love, comfy couch space for people to be quiet and to uncover what is coming up for them. Some of this is anger. Some of this is great fear. Some of this is confusion. And some of this is, oh, I didn't know. And many of those things cannot be voiced in public for fear of someone judging you, commenting about it, ostracizing you. And so my gift with No Judgment, Just Love is with the city of Scottsdale. I live in Scottsdale, Arizona. I'm in conversation to create virtual comfy couch places with no judgment, just love, where people can come and share or listen to learn and just be in a space where they can unleash what's going on inside of them without anyone interrupting or trying to change them.
Gosh, I love that, Sharon, because I've been on your comfy couch and I know that that is a very safe place to be. And I just want to say, just deep bow to the work that you're doing and how really, really grateful I am for you sticking with this as long as you have. You just celebrated your anniversary and I'm just,
6 years.
it's incredible, the growth that you've had and the wisdom that you share and just the safe space that you create and just being in your presence. It's just a beautiful, beautiful gift that you give to the world. And I truly, truly hold the vision of a no judgment, just love world with you. And I am excited that we're helping to co-create that together and really manifesting that through the World Unity Week and through all the wonderful ways that we can really amplify all the work that everyone's doing here. And we do have an amazing guest that's following that Rick is going to bring in, Monica Willard. Wow, another incredible, beautiful soul who is really just living this no judgment, just love world.
Exactly. Monica Willard is the main United Religions Initiative representative to the United Nations and coordinates the team of URI UN representatives. She has worked on the annual student observance for the International Day of Peace at UN headquarters since 1997. And she is currently serving as co-chair of the International Day of Peace NGO Committee at the UN. Welcome to the broadcast, Monica Willard.
Thank you, Rick. And I have to say that as ancient as it makes me sound, going back to the last century, starting with the International Day of Peace, we've been in this together.
Yes.
And, it has been such a joy to work with Rick for so many years and to watch 11 days be labeled, named, dedicated, and carried with your spirit in all of the wonderful people that you've brought in around the world. And I'm pleased to be a part of it, a small part of it, Rick, and just love We the World. And these people on this call, I am so grateful to be with you all and so honored. Thank you so much.
Yes, and Monica, I want to tell a little known secret, which is that you were on that fateful, or whatever the word is, that significant conference call in 2011 when we wanted to do something special for 11 days because it was the 10th anniversary of 9/11. It was the 30th anniversary of the start of International Day of Peace, with Avon Madison and the UN, 1981. And you said those fateful words, 11 days, 11 ways. Maybe there are 11 ways that we can celebrate 11 days. And that was the birth of the 11 themes, which became the 11 campaigns for change that have exploded with now over 600 organizations signing up to participate in the 11 campaigns that grew out of 11 days. So thank you.
You are welcome, Rick. And another little known fact is the International Day of Peace in 2001 was September 11th. And that is what started the 11 days of global unity. And so we were together in St. Bartholomew's Church that morning. And we were preparing for a very special service. It was to be opening for the special session on children. And the world seemed to change so quickly that day. But it didn't take the impact that this change of the coronavirus did. As this has been a very interesting time, and I can't tell you how grateful I am that I have my crazy background on, because it is a picture of Megiddo kind of split in half because of technology and my lack of it. But Megiddo is in Israel. It was the place where we gathered with the group that was there for World Interfaith Harmony Week. And we prayed and set a tone so that this place that had been predicted in the Bible to be the end of the world would never be that, but it would be the change and the end of the world as we knew it, perhaps, but we'd be growing into a new place. And little did we know that we are living into that in a way that we could never envision, just with the changes that have happened with the coronavirus. And as we sat at home, isolated, I was thinking about the start of the UN. And Robert Mueller used to say he was in trenches of World War II, and he would read about, look at this UN, what they are doing. They're bringing their spirits together. They want to have an organization where we can have a place where there will be no more wars. And I remember him talking about that. And as I was sitting on Zoom calls or by myself at home, I'm thinking, what are we doing? What is it going to take us to use this time productively? Little did I know that it would take an act of violence in Minneapolis that would get us to do that examining inside. And not that you want to have something horrible start something necessarily, but if that's what it took, I just am so grateful for George Floyd's life, that he has helped us to change the world. And I think we need to take some time in this COVID time to quietly come out of it, as well as being on the streets. So I love the safe couch. I love the idea of finding ways to get together virtually. And I think that World Unity Week is a gift beyond gifts. But what I really was asked to talk about a little bit was the International Day of Peace. And right now we are in the 100-day countdown for the International Day of Peace, which is also including, of course, World Unity Week. But this time, the Secretary General has called for the theme, UN set the theme as Shaping Peace Together for the International Day of Peace, which you chose for this title for this program, Rick, which I thank you, because we can't do it alone. And we can't try to do everything unless you're Ben Bowler and John Raymer and Rick, and you can spend hours trying to coordinate gazillions of things. And as much as we need to, we have to build trust. We have to know that when somebody is working for a better food supply and this person is working against nuclear weapons and someone else is working for racial justice, that we are all working together. And we do have a visionary map laid out by the United Nations called the Sustainable Development Goals. And it includes peace and justice. It includes poverty and equality and education. And so many of the 17 goals are all interwoven in what people are calling for on the streets, because you can't have peace without justice. And the other thing that peace to me has never been is just flat. Because something that is just flat, think of an EKG. We don't want to be flatlined. We have to be able to do the ups and the downs. And everybody has a different pace and rhythm. And we need to really own our own. We must bring peace, not only from inside of us, but help us to voice ourselves in a way that we are another link together in one of the ways that we can build a better world. And it's only through together this Endura's net will rise, and this giant sleeping civil society with everybody doing their part. And we need everyone. And it's such a joy to be part of to be part of World Unity Week and Unity Earth. And I'm particularly honored to be a part of the United Religions Initiative, which is celebrating 20 years. And I just have to say that our purpose, I have to just be able to share it with you. The United Religions Initiative was designed to end religiously motivated violence through daily interfaith cooperation to create cultures of peace, justice, and healing for the earth and all living beings. So almost any good thing in the world that you do fits into the way URI functions, and it's grassroots. And it has been a joy to be a part of the founding, and through 20 years of having a cooperation circle at the UN, which you've been a part of, Rick, since it started. And I just am so glad to see people here together as we're working towards World Unity Week, which is leading into the International Day of Peace. And as we live through this 100-day countdown, let us each bring something to the table. And if we do a little bit each day, think of where you are today. And when on September 21st arrives for the International Day of Peace, look back and say, I've done this. And I think we get a lot of people to a new point. So thank you, Rick, for having me, and may peace prevail on.
May peace prevail on earth, definitely. Karen, you want to bring in our next guest?
I would be so honored. I love Sue Blythe. She is the founder of the Climate Collaboratory and a pilot project of We the World's campaign for the environment, and the University of California Extension. She is the grandmother of 8, doing what she can to make a sustainable, just, and peaceful world for them and their descendants. And she's also the visionary behind the Welcome to We show. She is the one who came to us and said, I have this idea and I know we can do this. And she is the epitome of we consciousness. So Sue, what a blessing you are to our planet and to everyone who gets the chance to hear your wisdom. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Karen. I forgot to unmute. Gosh, that's so nice to be introduced that way, and I'm honored certainly to be here with this group today. I was just I feel like everybody has already said what I'm trying to say, and I guess that's the point of what I'm trying to do with the Climate Collaboratory, is that we are drawing on the strengths of all the many organizations that are working for these same goals, and the idea of peace is possible. And I believe it's inevitable that we are on the road and it is happening. If you can see it and hear it, it's everywhere. And so what's happening is the coronavirus has given us a pause, and several have already talked about this, but just a moment to say, what are we doing here? And to see each other, to see ourselves as one human family and one earth community with a common destiny. And those are words from the Earth Charter, which is really a statement of values and principles for a sustainable, just, and peaceful future. And it is the foundation that we're basing our Climate Collaboratory on. And it's at the University of Florida, and not California, but we're working with my friend Jennison Kipp, who is the state coordinator of a program called Sustainable Floridians. And this is currently an active program in 5 counties in our state. And what happens is that each year a team of volunteers is trained to act as a cohort in the community for the following year. And what we're doing is weaving this storytelling piece that I've been developing, listening to how the compassion games are played and that the sign network works, and listening to how the caravan of unity is coming across the US in September, and how we're all celebrating the International Day of Peace and going through those 11 days of global unity. And what we've done is created the gardens of global unity. So now we have 11 gardens to grow peace in. And so we're doing that in a lot of different ways. And I figure that everybody has a story to tell. Each of you on this panel, each of the people listening in, and each of the 7.8 billion people on the planet has a story, their own personal story of what this time in human history is like, what it's like to live a life at this moment. And so we're combining all of those stories in a children's story. I want to make it so simple that a child can understand and participate in the transition that we're all in, the evolution of all life on Earth. We are in a moment that is so different from any other moment that we've been in as a human family and all of life on Earth. It's a time of change.
Are you showing us something?
Yes, she is. I'm not.
All right.
Yeah. Karen, thank you. So here we are at the Gardens of Global Unity, and we're shaping peace together in the Gardens of Global Unity. And of course, Monica told us that that's the theme for the International Day of Peace. And I see us on what I envisioned as a slack line. We're on this 100-day countdown, and we are on our way to something new in September. And the way that our course works at the University of Florida is we have about 20 people coming in July and August. They'll be learning about issues of sustainability in our own community. And they'll be making action plans for helping to create, really going through each of the 11 gardens of global unity and finding their own peace. And so it would be personal action plans and collaborative action that we can do. And the idea is that this is coming through the University of Florida's extension, and every county in our state has a cooperative extension service. And so in theory, when we get this thing going, it can be available in each county in our state, and all 50 states have that same organizational setup. So we're creating a story. We are telling our own stories of our personal past and present, so that we know how we got where we are. And then we're visioning where we want to go. And so I call our story the first part. It's a trilogy, and the first part is Sage and the Tree Tenders on the road through 2020 and beyond. So we're going to be going through the year 2020, following the Caravan of Unity, and doing all of these. We already did the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. We'll be celebrating the 75th anniversary of the United Nations in October, and we've got a lot of work to do in between. Yes?
And maybe a last word from John before he has to run off.
Running off because World Unity Week is coming. So thanks again for letting me be on the We Show, and you, Sue, for what you've been doing. And this is us rising together. So I'm off to another Zoom room, and I'll meet you on the plains of Zoom for World Unity Week.
The plains of
Awesome.
Zoom. Thank you, John.
And just before you go, John, just before you go, just to let everybody know that World Unity Week is a participatory thing. So anyone can host an open space session. So I just wanted quickly to get this out.
Yes.
Monday, the 22nd at 1 p.m. Eastern Time and 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time and 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Wednesday, 1:45 p.m. Eastern Time. These are open space sessions where you can come and you can host any subject. And the orientating question is this: what do we need to mobilize a world unity movement? So we invite all of the We family to go to World Unity Week and register to host an open space session. They're the dates. We'd love to see you there. Your voice matters. We want to hear from you, and we want to see you in World Unity Week.
That's right. And there's 2 on Thursday, or 1 on Thursday too. I think there's 1 more on Thursday. Yeah. But they're there. It's fabulous, Ben. Thanks for putting that word out. All right, guys. See you soon.
Hey, thank
Come on.
you, John. So let's move into our kind of roundtable to react to anything that anyone has talked about, and in particular, answer that question that we love to ask on this show: what can we do together that we can't do on our own to achieve the kind of society that we want to live in, and that so many people have expressed a desire to move into. Antoinette, would you like to go since you spoke first earlier? What do you think?
All right. You know, I always got something to say. Well, I would say, just like the civil rights movement, and I've spoken about this before, we have to be able to do this together, because when Black people marched, they were being killed on the daily, for years. And it wasn't until when whites started to get involved, and it wasn't until when 2 whites got killed that they had to send the FBI down into Alabama or down into wherever it happened, Mississippi burning, to investigate and see what was happening. And that's when they actually started to push forward the change. And all the people back at that time, because it was really split, everybody wasn't on board with MLK, at that time. But if you look today, everybody will always sit there and quote MLK. Everybody was like behind it. It was like, no, all of you weren't. They are now. But back then, it was very divisive. But when people actually start to come together, things actually start to change. When Black Lives Matter started, years ago, it was only Black people who were marching. People are starting to take notice because, like I said, now you have like Natives for Black Lives Matter in LA, Matt McGorry from the TV show White Lives for Black Lives Matter. I was like, really? Look at all those guys go. They're out there in their yellow shirts and they're doing their thing. And all the other people started coming together because they're recognizing it together. We cannot do this alone. We can only do this, together as a cooperative type of organization, whether it's grassroots, whether it's individual, within local, or whether it's global. And just like Sharon had said earlier, the way that she's doing it is from the, no judgment from the couch, this type of piece. There's so many different forms that people can protest in so many different ways, whether they email, whether they write letters, whether they take to the streets, whether they're loud, whether they're soft, whether they're quiet. Because when you want to describe Black people, we come in very many shapes, sizes, colors, and personalities, because I get a lot of clapback or whatever when we have Black conservatives. We have Black conservatives, we have Black liberals, we have Black independents, we have, a lot of variety type of Black people. But most of the time when we're actually inserted into a lot of different things, it's only one of us, so they think that one person is speaking for the whole of the Black community. Right. I'm not speaking for the whole Black community. I'm speaking for Antoinette and my truth, and other people who can relate to those things, and other people who can't, they can't, because they have their own different ways of doing things. Just same thing like my family. So listening is very good, just like, Karen had mentioned earlier, listening to our youth, listening to each other, listening to, all the people who are also getting involved as well, because we are coming together as a collective whole, as a community, for the good of the whole. Unity, not uniformity. We're all going to be different on our ideas, but we do have one common goal. So that's one way we can sit there and come together. It's just recognizing that we are different, not to be colorblind, but to see our color, embrace our different shades of color, embrace our diversity, and knowing that we're still part of one human race, and then moving forward from there. Thank you.
Thanks, Antoinette. And any thoughts, Ben, as we come to the sort of final phase of our show today?
I think it's just wonderful that we're building upon, you know, the good work of so many amazing leaders, Rick and Monica and Antoinette, Sharon, Sue, and Karen in this, you know, this community as we come together and we realize how strong we are and how many we are and how powerful we are when we come together and we support each other and we listen to each other's concerns. Everything is possible. And certainly we're in that space now, in the we space of recognizing that it's not out there. The problem's not out there. The problem's not this institution or that institution or that institution. We created those institutions. Now, maybe they don't no longer serve us. Maybe we need to move beyond them. We get to do that together, and we are responsible for the future of the human community on this planet. And so coming together in that responsibility, realizing our power in a humble way, in a communal way, I feel we're on the verge of very, very powerful transformations, and we see it happening all around us. So thank you, Rick, for your leadership and pioneering work in the global community. And it's an honor to be with you here today. And I leave this conversation feeling very, very optimistic. I'm heartened by the courage of Antoinette and leadership and the devotion of Sharon and the vision of Sue. And, you know, what Monica is just absolutely amazing with everything that Monica's been doing for such a long time. And those dreams are coming through, and the way that Karen holds this space on the behalf of everybody, those dreams are coming true. So I'm full of optimism and determination to work with you shoulder to shoulder to realize these common dreams.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And you mentioned about the we space and the we the we-ness of what we're going for. And I wanted to mention that during World Unity Week, We the World will be hosting a session called Creating a We-Based Society, an Imperative for Survival. So I think that's going to be helpful to, as we all come together and explore what it means to be part of this expanding we. And as I always like to say, it's not just humans that are part of the we. It's animals and forests and rivers and ecosystems. That is really the expanding consciousness of we. And that's why we started that organization, We the World, as the ultimate we, right? So, and Ben, you have been pushing that forward, that idea of the final step of we is we are one, right? And that's what you've been doing, Ben. So thank you.
That's why we called it World Unity Week.
Right. And do you want to let people know once again how people can connect with Unity Earth and World Unity Week?
Sure. Just go to worldunityweek.org, register, and you'll be, in the flow. You can also register to host an open space session. Join the community. It's about facilitating, the next stage of a world unity movement, and we need everyone involved in that conversation. So come with us. There are many, many, many leaders, many, many organizations, and we'd love for you to be one of them.
That's great. So Sharon, any thoughts about what we've been talking about? And for me, the work you've been doing with no judgment, just love is so important, because if we don't relate to each other without judgment, how can we come together as a we and do the things that we need to do to actually survive, to have a livable future? How can we do that if we can't connect with each other in a way that celebrates each other?
I absolutely concur. And to answer the question of what can we do together that we can't do alone is kind of a balance for me, because together, I think if each of us can be exposed to and are willing to look at our life, look at any traumas that have happened, look at anything that has gone on in your life that's caused you to have a certain perspective, which doesn't give you permission to be a we. part of a we society. I'm not filled. I'm not seen. I'm not honored. How can I give what I don't have to you and a we society? So for me, it becomes vital to not only a personal survival of each person, but a we society where I'm willing to be a part of a community that looks different than me, that acts different than me. And I love what you said, Antoinette. It's not uniformity, it's unity. And sometimes when people think of peace, there is one, thank you, Monica, one flat line that we all try to live on, and we can't. We are different, 7.8 billion. I love the numbers going up, but it's up and down. And when we can sit with ourselves in the company of someone who cares for us, or even just having a conversation like this and a light bulb goes off, go, oh, I had a prejudice about that, or this hurts me, or any of that. That's how we really become a healthy we society, and not people just kicking and screaming and being pulled along the we track.
You muted yourself, Rick.
Yeah, I'm being a good Zoom citizen. I'm muting myself. So I really want to celebrate what you've been doing, Sharon, because you've been able to work with families who have been in trouble and have not had that sense of we, because that's what you do. You do family coaching. You've also been in prisons, working
Yes.
with women in prisons and helping them to work to figure that out. Do you want to just tell people a little bit about that? It's just so important.
Yes. You know, people are parched. Our youth are parched, and they're parched for the essence of all of us is love. And when you're in a society and a place or a home and a family, or you've done something and now you're incarcerated, that feeling of I just want to be seen and loved doesn't go away. And so even just one drop of acknowledgement that you exist, that you matter, that I care for you, even if I don't know you, gets sucked up. And that's what happened in the prisons. Just me walking in and laughing because they're all dressed in orange and it was Halloween. And they had decorations in the room. And I thought, y'all matched the decorations. How fun. I did not see them as inmates and someone who had done something. What happens around you, in my view, as a divine being, is exactly what you need for your growth, and it's exactly what all of us need to see and witness. So rather than asking people what's wrong with you in that prison, I gave them an open-ended question. What happened to you? And there ensued just a wonderful conversation for 6 days. It was awesome. 4 days, sorry. 6 hours for 4 days. So yeah, that's all I want to say about that.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. So, and it's so interesting because now, maybe the first time I can remember, people are talking about how can we move away from prisons? How can we move away from police? And, you know, I mean, part of the freedom campaign of We the World is one of the action steps is to look at how can we move away from incarceration being used to address things like poverty, addiction, and mental illness. That, you know, why is incarceration in the criminal justice system being used for those things when there are better ways to do that? And that conversation is getting out there now. So it's one of the things that I'm celebrating. So maybe we're moving a little closer.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. So Monica, any thoughts?
Yes, one of the things that I think we have to be incredibly aware of is bringing in youth. And I think it was easier when you could invite someone to sit and share your computer with you, but it's not as easy to do that now. You can share a link, but who knows, it's not quite the intimacy. But we must bring in youth. And I have to say, I am thrilled to be able to be working with the youth from URI for our program for Unity Week on holding the discussion on what is it we need to do to shape peace together? Because the UN has been calling for this year, before any of the COVID, before anything, the UN 75th was asking people, what do you want? Are we anywhere near the future you want? And how do we need to get there? This was a discussion and it was designed to be open-ended. And now it's how do we shape peace together? And so we're going to be holding that discussion and talking about what some of the people are doing in their way of shaping peace in their region on Friday morning, the 25th at 11. And there'll be a time for discussion afterwards. I'm very excited to share the young people of URI at that particular time. But as we are doing anything, when Antoinette, when you had the youth join you, we have to think in terms of bringing them along, whether, I mean, I used to drag my kids because they were there, you know, they just got into the things. But, and now it's grandchildren to a certain extent, but we need to reach out and bring in youth of all ages and all types, because we have a lot to offer, but so do they. And it's just wonderful to watch the same thing and to hear it from the eyes of someone who's coming from a very different perspective. So I think that should be one of our goals as we build a future together.
Yes, and the youth, I mean, people also don't know that you've been helping to create that observance. The student observance of the International Day of Peace has been a very, very powerful annual event at the UN, where you have young people from the tri-state area coming in buses to the UN, and youth presentations, and then on the screens, young people in the conflict areas like Liberia and Bosnia and these places right on the screens. And so they can connect with and talk with and ask questions of each other. And this has been a very powerful thing that you've helped to coordinate for, I guess it's over 20 years. I mean.
Oh yeah. And it's been in partnership with the UN. It was the Department of Public Information. Now it's Global Communications. And the UN, it's their program, and it's with the Secretary General, the Messengers of Peace. The youth get to come in and to have this exchange. Deborah Moldau and I started it in '97 with the Department of Public Information, and it has grown in ways. Last year, the youth presented these peace projects that run around the world, and it touched on climate. It was all around climate and the environment and building peace that way. And peace isn't just not fighting. Peace is working together and collaboration and coming together and working with those that are different, those that are the same. And it's happening all the time. And nobody stands up and gives yourself a clap when you park between two lines in a parking lot, because you know what you're doing. You get there, you park between the lines. There are certain things that are being changed now, and those lines aren't as clear. And we need to develop how and borders go, and to just look at things with no judgment. I love that, with love, with kindness. We know the rules. These are not new. The golden rule has been around a very long time. And just that we are all with the spark, a divine spark somehow. There's more than just us. And thank God for that many days. And I just thank all of you for being who you are and doing what you are doing, so that we can work together and know that it is together that makes this difference, particularly for the International Day of Peace as one day of celebration. Now we're going to work up to it with a lot of things, and let us count them and just have a good time, but also enjoy the fact that we're doing things that are meaningful.
Yeah. And thank you, Monica. And Sue, talking about youth, you're doing so many things with young people, and you're working with Heidi Little and the International Children's Month, and you're doing the things with Pacha's pajamas and all of these things, and you know, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. have been creating this story, children's story for my own grandchildren, and bring in characters from other books and stories, music, and we're building it all into one story. I'd like to just share that part of this community-wide climate conversation that we'll be having in North Central Florida is, and of course it will be through the internet, so it will be everywhere. But we are inviting the youth and the elders to work together as a team, interviewing other people who are doing the good work in their own communities, and helping to get that story told in a powerful way that connects and is the almost one-on-one, 2, 3-on-1, 2 and 2, to help create the bonds of friendship is part of what we're working on, working across differences. I did want to mention that I feel like at this moment, it's important for each of us to find a network of support and to find some kind of program to do the inner work that needs to be done. And I wanted to close with let me just mention that we're working with a group called Showing Up for Racial Justice and building that into our Sustainable Floridians course, because it's none of it is sustainable unless we are working together as one human family. So I wanted to mention before we go that if you will visit that website that we saw earlier, and it's gardensofglobalunity.org. You'll be invited to look at a quotation that says, peace, and this is from the Earth Charter, peace is the wholeness of creating right relationships with oneself, other persons, other cultures, other life, earth, and the larger whole of which all are a part. So this whole continuum of wellness and wholeness and restoring the balance of nature and just being at peace all the way through and through is what we're looking for. And if you reflect on that quotation and you are moved to plant a seed idea in the Gardens of Global Unity, we will help to grow that seed idea and see what we have when we get to the International Day of Peace in September.
Great. Thank you. And if you can put that in the chat, or maybe Karen can put that, what is it? Gardens of
Global Unity.
I already have, it's already in there.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Gardensofglobalunity.org. So that's great. And Karen, we would love to hear about your work with young people as well. I mean,
I'm so excited for World Unity Week. I am just thrilled. I will be bringing back Mr. Rogers. We'll be bringing Miss Kindness in the global neighborhood. And we will be having a daily show that will celebrate the Global Silent Minute every day at 1 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. And we will also be sharing family songs of upliftment and joy. We'll be talking about the power of kindness and how that can affect us in our health, in our relationships, and how it can change our world. We'll be talking about that the whole week of World Unity Week. I'll also be in the Global Love Wave for International Children's Month. I will be representing at 1:11 the West Coast Global Meditation of Love. And I'm just honored to keep bringing this message of love and kindness. These hopeful children that I work with left me with something really deep, and I will never forget, and I will never stop working toward what this second grader said to me when I asked him, what does peace on earth look like to you? And he said, well, peace on earth is when everyone has more than enough and they want to share. And I thought to myself when he said that, you need to be a leader. And I got him right involved with the Peace on Earth games, and his family is going to be playing the Peace on Earth by 2030 games. And I am also on the marketing team and the advertising team for Peace on Earth by 2030 games. And I do a show weekly with David Gershon called What Else is Possible to honor the beautiful Barbara Marx Hubbard and answer that question, what else is possible? So it's a very beautiful world that I am co-creating with all of you. And thank you so much for opening your hearts and your beautiful visions so that we can dream this dream and love this dream into this new reality. Yes.
Definitely, definitely. So I have a few announcements about.
Oh, you sure do. You have a lot of
Coming up.
great announcements coming up.
Oh
huh?
yeah, I mean, there are so many amazing things coming up. And so during the summer, we will be continuing the Welcome to We show. So the next show will be July 21st, same time as usual, which is the third Tuesday of the month at 6 p.m. Eastern time. And what we're in now, of course, is the International Children's Month, and the Global Wave of Love is taking place on June 21st. It's part of World Unity Week, as are so many things. I do want to mention that June is also Pride Month, and this is actually the 51st anniversary of the idea of pride for LGBTQ folks. And I think it started June 28th in 1969. Also, the Poor People's Campaign Moral March on Washington is happening June 20th. We're making that part of World Unity Week as well. Then we, of course, talked about the 100-day countdown to the International Day of Peace, which starts on June 13th. It's also the 3-month countdown to 11 Days of Global Unity, which is September 11 to 21. We the World is launching a music compilation album. Heidi Little is producing that. So we're doing that also in June, and that's going to be part of World Unity Week as well. And there's just so many things. So we urge you to go to we.net to learn more about everything. You can start to post things on the Global Unity calendar and be part of the We team there. And anything else you would like to say, Karen, as we close?
Well, I'd love for you to share with everybody our beautiful quote from our dear friend, Jonathan Granoff. I think that that's a wonderful way for us to end it. I just want to say what an honor it is to be in circle with all of you and to really, really hear your wisdom, your love, your care, and to know that we are doing those 3 I's to make that we, you know, we are inspiring, we are informing, and we are involving millions of people now, Rick, right? Millions of people. We're reaching millions of people with the love of this technology and the Sign Network and all the work that Unity Earth is doing. I mean, we're just really collaborating in a way that I never thought was possible, but is really happening. So thank you, Rick. Thank you so much.
Yes. So what you were talking about with Jonathan, at the launch of the We campaign and we.net about 9 or 10 years ago, Jonathan said at the very end of his talk, I hope that we expands so much that there is no longer any them. Thank you all, and bye-bye. It's all about we.
All about we.